Kill Bill Volume 2 is one mighty sequel, but it's not necessarily as appreciated, or certainly not as watched, as the iconic original. As such, it remains a film where many might not appreciate Quentin Tarantino's finer details that he packed into the entire thing, but that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. So, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 20 things you probably missed in Kill Bill Volume 2. Number 20, Bill's jacket frames his role in the film. Near the start of the film, we witness the flashback of Bill arriving at the bride/Beatrix's wedding rehearsal, and in this scene, note that he unbuttons his jacket in the seconds before the deadly Viper assassination squad enters the chapel and massacres everyone. And that's because this is actually mirrored right at the end of the film as well. In particular, after Beatrix defeats Bill with the 5-point palm exploding heart technique, he buttons up the same jacket before taking his fateful 5 steps. In the first shot, Beatrix is walking away from Bill to her husband-to-be, and in the last shot, Bill is walking away from the bride to his death. Number 19, Bud has the same gasoline can as Reservoir Dogs' Mr. Blonde. Keep a close eye on the interior of Bud's trailer and you might notice a distinctive Safeguard gasoline can laying around. Now if the prop looks a little bit familiar, that's because it's actually already been used in a Quentin Tarantino movie before, particularly in Reservoir Dogs by Mr. Blonde. This occurs in the iconic scene where he douses kidnapped cop Marvin Nash with it while torturing him. And funnily enough, it can also be seen in Pulp Fiction as well, where it's used to dispose of the remains of another Marvin. Number 18, Paula Schultz's corpse makes bunny ears. After Bud subdues Beatrix, he buries her in the grave of another woman called Paula Schultz. But if you look closely after he's dug the poor woman in question up, you can actually see her corpse laying in her coffin on the right-hand side of the screen. More to the point, look closely at Paula's fingers and she's actually making bunny ears, which are casting a weird little shadow on the back of the coffin. Now obviously rigor mortis plays a part here as it stiffens a person's extremities after death, but think about it, what sicko posed her in that way? We're asking the important questions here, naturally. Number 17, Beatrix never speaks to Bud. Though Beatrix, of course, has significant interactions with all members of the deadly Viper assassination squad throughout the 2 films, she never actually speaks to Bud. The two never cross paths in the first film, of course, and when she tries to kill him in the second, he quickly incapacitates her. And even when she does regain consciousness, she remains totally silent, only ever nodding at Bud and towards his flashlight. Of course, when she eventually escapes and returns to the trailer, Bud has already been killed, and she doesn't have to do it herself. Number 16, the meaning behind Bill's car. Early in the film, when Bill pays a visit to see Bud in his trailer, we can actually see the character's car parked nearby. The camera lingers on the car, and it was chosen for good reason. It's a Di Tommaso Mangusta, with Mangusta meaning mongoose in Italian. And what are mongooses best known for? Well, it just so happens to be killing snakes. And of course, given that Beatrix is a former member of the Divas with the codename Black Mamba, it's all too fitting that Bill is driving a mongoose. Number 15, half of the Divas aren't even named after vipers. We all know the old saying, if you dance with the snakes in the snake pit, you're gonna get slithered on. Well, unlike the person that quote originated from, it turns out that half of the Divas aren't even named after vipers. Bill, for starters, has the humanoid codename Snake Charmer, while Beatrix's Black Mamba actually belongs to the Elapidae family, and Elle Driver's California Mountain Snake is totally non-venomous and therefore not a viper. This leaves the only true vipers among the group as Bud's Sidewinder, Already She's Cottonmouth, and Vanita Green's Copperhead. Number 14, Tarantino's Honda Civic makes an appearance. Quentin Tarantino's first car was reportedly a 1981 Honda Civic, which could explain why that same model of car has appeared in 3 of his movies so far. It made its first and most prominent appearance in Pulp Fiction, when Butch ran over Marcellus with it, and the very same white Honda was then driven by the title character in Jackie Brown, and finally in Kill Bill Volume 2, the car could be seen parked outside the strip club. So, if Tarantino's next film is set in the present day, or at least close to it, let's hope this convention comes back. I love this little cameo. Number 13, Elle's eye removal is foreshadowed. Now here's one that seems blindingly obvious, in retrospect. The story's 9th chapter, where Beatrix has her fateful battle with Elle, is knowingly titled Elle and I, which seems like a fitting enough name given their established storied history. But given that the chapter also sees Beatrix rip Elle's eye out, there's certainly more to it to that. It is probably a little wink to the action as much as it is their history. Number 12, Michael Parks has a double role. Now you might not have realised that the retired pimp Esteban is actually played in this movie by the legendary character actor Michael Parks. Now, while that revelation alone might be surprising to some, the most interesting part is that Parks himself has, of course, already appeared in a Kill Bill movie, showing up in Volume 1 as a totally different character, Texas Ranger Earl McGraw. And he won this second role through pure happenstance. See, the great Ricardo Montalban was originally hired to play Esteban, but when he couldn't attend a read-through of the script during pre-production, Parks agreed to read in his place. Ultimately, Tarantino realized that he actually preferred Parks' performance and hired him in the role instead. Number 11, the Pai Mei unknowingly gets revenge against Elle. During Beatrix's fight with Elle, Elle reveals that she killed their joint master, the Pai Mei. Beatrix responds, of course, like I said, by ripping out Elle's eye, but there's a little bit more subtext going on in this scene. And that's because you might notice that she rips Elle's remaining eye out with her right hand. And that's significant if you paid attention to a prior flashback, which reveals there's actually a secret significance in Beatrix's act. See, during the flashback where the Pai Mei is training a younger Beatrix, he defeats her and while twisting her right arm in place, informs her, "It's my arm now, I can do what I please." So, with that logic, the Pai Mei actually kinda indirectly did get his revenge on Elle. How? Well, Beatrix used her right arm, the arm that the Pai Mei owns, in order to finish the character off. So, with this in mind, he owned the arm got the finishing blow, so he gets the credit. That's probably logic any boss in the world can understand. Number 10, the visible boomer mic. HD is a blessing and a curse. For viewers, it's great to see your favourite movies in the highest resolution possible, but for filmmakers, it can unearth secrets that were otherwise obscured. Case in point, if you watch the Blu-ray version of this film, eagle-eyed viewers might be able to notice a boom mic scarcely visible when Bud is chatting with Larry. The mic can be seen reflected in Larry's sunglasses, and while it is just a small mistake, it's a mistake nonetheless. Number 9, Daryl Hannah homages her Blade Runner death. After Beatrix removes Elle's other eye, she of course starts squirming around in pain on the floor, as you probably would if you just had your eye ripped out by somebody's hand. But while that might not be surprising, look at the very specific way that she moves on the floor, as it might actually be a reference to another movie. And that's because Blade Runner fans will surely remember the iconic death scene of Daryl Hannah's own replicant, who similarly spasms around on the floor before finally being retired. Like I said before, this can just be chalked up to a natural reaction to having something so violent happening to you, but the similarity in the movements and the same actor playing both roles does suggest that this might be a more considered homage. Number 8, only 3 people die on screen. It's a pretty natural expectation to go into a Quentin Tarantino movie and expect to see a lot of violence and a lot of killing. And that certainly is the case with Kill Bill Volume 1, which famously has a body count in the dozens. It's a ridiculously violent movie, and the bride kills a lot of people. Kill Bill Volume 2, though, boasts a body count just a fraction of its predecessor. In fact, only 3 characters are killed on screen in Volume 2, Bud, Bill, and the Pai Mei in a flashback. And more to the point, Beatrix only kills a single person, Bill, in Volume 2. Similarly, Bill himself isn't actually shown killing anyone, despite us being told just how dangerous and how much of a bloodthirsty killer this man can be. Number 7, BB shooting her mother is foreshadowed. When Beatrix finally finds Bill's hotel room, she's shocked to know that their daughter BB is actually alive. In fact, her kid points a toy gun at her and shouts "bang bang." And this reveal is actually neatly foreshadowed at the very start of the first Kill Bill, when Nancy Sinatra's iconic "Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down" memorably plays over the opening credits. Now indeed, this title and those lyrics is literally what happens in this scene, and that can't be a coincidence. Number 6, the credits confirm Elle's ambiguous fate. Years before the Marvel Cinematic Universe had us sitting through lengthy credits just to catch a glimpse of the next movie or an Easter egg from the movie we just watched, Kill Bill Volume 2 had an incredibly opulent end credit sequence of its own. And after the first batch are done, Tarantino cuts to a shot of Beatrix driving her car in black and white, while a roll call appears on the screen for the various members of the Divas, whose names are then promptly crossed out per their deaths. But when Daryl Hannah's name pops up, the strike-through is actually removed and replaced by a question mark, hinting that her character might have survived because, after all, we don't actually see her die on screen. It's implied and she's in a lot of pain, but it's never confirmed, and these credits seemingly indicate that there's more to that character's story. So if Kill Bill 3 ever happens, it's probably likely that Tarantino will wrap up the character's fate in one way or another. Number 5, Bill's TV is synchronized to what he's doing. During the final confrontation between Bill and Beatrix, pay close attention to the moment when Bill sheathes his Hanzo sword and then puts it down on the top. And that's because on the right hand side of the screen, a film is playing on the TV. The 1949 Roy Rogers western, The Golden Stallion. And as Beatrix descends the stairs, Bill slams the sheathed sword onto the worktop just as the character in the film is punched square in the face. The sound of the sheath hitting the top and the punch match up so perfectly that this can't have been a coincidence. Number 4, Bill and Beatrix equals BB. Now this is a detail that seems incredibly obvious, but is similarly incredibly easy to miss. So, we know that Beatrix and Bill's daughter is identified in the film only as BB. We're never told what those initials mean, but by anyone's guess, you can probably assume that it stands for Beatrix and Bill, the child's parents. Contextually, Bill may have chosen the name as a secret tribute to his lover, no matter that he ordered her death and indeed believed her to be dead. Number 3, Bill's Reservoir Dogs reference. Now, the safeguard canister isn't the only reference to Reservoir Dogs in Kill Bill Volume 2. In fact, during the final showdown, Bill pulls out a gun and points it at Beatrix before telling her, if you don't settle down, I'm gonna have to put one in your kneecap. And I hear that's a very painful place to get shot in. Now, this line is actually a wink and a nod to Tarantino's debut. And that's because there, Mr. Blonde similarly tells a wounded Mr. Orange in the film's climax, quote, along with the kneecap, the gut is the most painful area a guy can get shot in. So yeah, I guess Bill's as much of a Tarantino fan as we are. Number 2, the debate over how many steps Bill takes. Beatrix and Bill have a surprisingly brief final fight. It of course wraps up when Beatrix hits Bill with the 5-point palm exploding heart technique, meaning Bill will drop dead as soon as he takes 5 more steps. And so, Bill then dies after standing up, buttoning up his jacket, and taking those 5 steps until he dies. But the scene immediately kicked off an argument between fans over just how many steps Bill actually takes in this scene. Though the legend dictates that it's 5, many believe that Bill actually makes it 6 steps before kneeling over. It basically comes down to whether or not you believe that him changing his stance before walking counts as a step. To these 6-step truthers, it might suggest that Bill was just so hard that he managed to resist the 5-point palm exploding heart technique for an additional step. Others, though, simply view it as reading too much into the scene, and that he took the 5 steps and him adjusting himself and standing up, that doesn't count. Number 1, the post-credits gag. Those precious few who managed to sit through the entire credit sequence of Kill Bill Volume 2 were treated with a pretty cool gag, that being an unused take from Volume 1's most iconic action scene. The 10-second clip is an extended take of Beatrix ripping out one of the Crazy 88's eyes during the showdown at the House of the Blue Leaves. We're able to see the clapperboard prior to Tarantino calling action, and then Uma Thurman laughing after he calls cut while asking him to do another take. So yeah, it doesn't add anything to the plot, but it is a fun little reward for the people who managed to sit through the entire credits, or more likely, just skip to the end. So, that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. How many of these details did you notice in Kill Bill Volume 2 before? And are there any other cool ones I missed off here? Let me know, and while you're down there, if you could, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.